Edmonton Oilers 5, Vancouver Canucks 3. Welcome to the day after reaction with myself, Waz, and Zach. Zach, how about that game last night, eh?
Yeah, it was a wild one. It was pretty cool to see Connor McDavid. Remember that he's the best player in the entire NHL. Pretty wild 4-point performance in the first game of the season. If my math checks out, I think he's on pace for 246 goals this year. Gonna make a bold prediction and say he hits it.
And how about those Pims, though?
Yeah, it's a bit of an issue, right? I mean, you take 8 penalties in a game, and Vancouver was able to only convert on one of them. You know, a standard team is able to convert about 20-25% of their power play opportunities, right? So you think about it, the Oilers probably got lucky in one sense of the term that there wasn't more damage there. We talked too about the penalty issue in the preseason for the Oilers. In 7 of those 8 games, they took 35 penalties in total. It seems to be something that's carried over a little bit into the regular season here and definitely cause for concern.
Yeah, so I guess we should just start from the start. I mean, the Oilers obviously didn't have a great start to the game, going down 2-0 pretty early. Just give us your general consensus thoughts on how the game unfolded at the start.
Yeah, I mean, it was a shaky game. I mean, it was the same issue that we saw the Oilers have a lot last season, was where, they would start slowing games and be forced to play from behind and sort of go into catch-up mode. You know, a bit of a hey kid, welcome to the NHL moment for Dylan Holloway early in that game, right? It was a pretty brutal turnover giveaway, I guess, in his own zone on his second shift. And after that, he didn't see the ice for 8 minutes. Definitely a little bit concerning for me, the way that, Jay Woodcroft decided to, in a sense of the term, bury Holloway down the lineup. He was penciled in to play alongside Leon Draisaitl and Zach Hyman. He played under a minute of 5-on-5 ice time with those guys last night, and instead played a lot more with Brad Malone and Ryan McLeod. So I don't necessarily agree with that sort of deployment, because Dylan Holloway is a guy who's going to be on this team all season long. I understand the first game of the season jitters, but man, this is the time when you get those out of your system, right? These are the games where you play Holloway 15, 20 minutes, and you really get him into the game and adjusting. From there, another tough goal from JT Miller, right? There wasn't much that, Jack Campbell was able to do. It was a great shot. He roofed it. And then 39 seconds into the second period, the Oilers are on the penalty kill because of a dumb Darnell Nurse penalty, and Andrei Kuzmenko is able to tip one home. And then, to come out and score 5 goals unabated the way the Oilers did, pretty impressive stuff.
Yeah, that's it kind of shows you that you should never count out the Oilers regardless of the scoreline. If you're down 3-0, the Oilers can easily find themselves back in the game. They did that. I was very impressed by Leon Draisaitl's play, Zach Hyman. I think that the whole top 6 played a pretty solid game. And Of course, I mean, aside from Dylan Holloway, like, people are asking me on our TikTok live, oh, what did you think of Dylan Holloway? Well, I barely noticed him throughout the game because Jay Woodcroft basically said, hey, we're going to staple you to the bench for a bit and we're going to bring you down a notch, which I don't know if I also agree with that as well, but maybe a little bit of a wake-up call for Dylan Holloway. Hey, you're in the NHL. It's time to play.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's going to be tough for any rookie. Yeah. But, what can you really do, right? These things are going to happen. And this is kind of what I wrote in my day after article on OilersNation.com today was, you kind of have to get used to this with a rookie, right? Look at what happened with Evan Bouchard last year. Like, he had a lot of moments in games where I was like, man, Evan, like, what is going on? What are you doing here, right? So I think Holloway is going to be fine in the long run, and I just would like to see the Oilers be a little bit more patient with him early on.
Should we get to our 3 takeaways of the game?
Absolutely.
What was your first takeaway?
My first takeaway was, obviously the way that Jack Campbell and Connor McDavid played through the game. I mean, there was a couple of tough moments there early in that game for Jack Campbell, but man, he settled in really nicely, stopping, 33 of 36 shots that he faced, right? He posted a .917 save percentage last night, and, if the Oilers can get a consistent .917 out of Jack Campbell all season long, blunders aside, if that's what you want to call him from last night, the Oilers are going to be in pretty good shape. Then Connor McDavid, I mean, what can you say? He had 4 shots on goal. He had 3 goals and an assist, right? He is going to do some magical things this year. And my big prediction is that he's a 50-goal scorer for the first time in his career this season.
I mean, yeah, Connor started off pretty well, getting a hat trick, which was fantastic. I think my first takeaway will definitely have to be Jack Campbell. Aside from those 2 goals, the first 2 goals, maybe the third, I thought he had a solid performance. He really settled quickly back into the game, made some great saves, and definitely laid the body, which I think was my second top highlight of the game. I loved seeing that. I was like, holy shit, Jack Campbell, thank you so much for being an Edmonton Oiler. So how about a second takeaway for you?
My second big takeaway is going to be the penalty situation the Oilers have found them in. They really need to clean up their game. And granted, the officiating was, a little rough around the edges both ways. I think at the end of the day, you have to play more disciplined hockey than that. Taking 8 penalties in a regular season game is it's absolutely unacceptable. So let's hope that this team can kind of turn that around and try and find a way where, they're able to kind of settle their game down, play a little bit more calmly, not take any dumb penalties. And hey, I mean, Connor McDavid, he led on the goal sheet and he led on the penalty minute sheet. So what can you do? And actually, interestingly enough, some news just came down. Darnell Nurse was fined $5,000 for his interference on Kyle Burrows.
Really?
At the end of the first period. So that's there you go. A little interesting news nugget breaking live here.
Well, I'll go to my second takeaway. I'm gonna be honest. That pairing of Murray and Evan Bouchard did not look pretty. I thought they had a lot. They gave up a lot of scoring chances on Campbell. I really hope Jay Woodcroft and coaching staff can really settle them down. Because I don't know. I didn't think they were very stable together.
Yeah, that's fair. I think there's a lot of work to do, and I think the nice thing is that it is early in the season.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. There's gonna be lots of runway. There's gonna be lots of time for these guys to kind of settle in, but you take it with a bit of a grain of salt at this time of the year, I suppose.
Your third takeaway?
My third takeaway is going to be, we need the Oilers' top players to finish. Jesse Puljujarvi had a grade A scoring chance in front of the net early in the game that he wasn't able to bury. Evander Kane took a Leon Draisaitl pass on the opposite side of the net later in the game and couldn't bury that opportunity. Thatcher Demko is a great goaltender. There's people in the NHL who believe he could be a Vezina caliber goaltender this year, but at the end of the day, those are the instances where guys like Evander Kane and Jesse Puljujarvi really need to bear down and try and find a way to get that puck in the net. Again, kind of tough to do. It's a hard situation to be in, but I think the Oilers as a whole, need to really focus on trying to convert those chances early on in the season here.
My third takeaway, honestly, I'm gonna give it to Darnell Nurse, mostly because aside from the penalties, I thought he looked pretty confident defensively and on the puck. That was the third goal that he tied the game with. I thought it was a great shot by him, wonderful pass, and I was really happy to see his game because I really think this is a year where he really needs to prove a lot of doubters wrong. A lot of people think he's a terrible defender, which I think is that's outrage. I think a lot of criticism that Darnell Nurse gets is overblown. So I was really happy to see his game. He just looked confident on the ice, skating, shooting the puck defensively. I think there was a 2-on-1 in the third with Vancouver going, and he read that play perfectly. So shout out to Darnell Nurse.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you make some good points there. Is he overpaid? Yeah, maybe a little bit, but I think he's also definitely an above average goaltender in the NHL. I think he's a guy who's going to need to step up big for the team this year, just like you said.
Any final thoughts?
No, that's about it. It's going to be interesting to see Saturday night's game.
Yep.
Against the Calgary Flames. One of 3 Battle of Albertas this year.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, we're getting so few, but we'll have to make the most of them.
I'll just quickly touch on Ben Stelter. That was a beautiful tribute by the Edmonton Oilers at the start of the game. And the comments by Connor McDavid after the game as well, dedicating the game when it was Scott Oak asking, "Oh, what are your thoughts on your performance, your hat trick?" He said, didn't matter. It all went to Ben. All mattered about Ben. So I think his spirit was definitely in the building that night. And we had a lot of comments on our social saying how everyone was teary-eyed. I think there wasn't a dry eye in the building or watching that game.
Play La Bamba, baby.
Play La Bamba, baby. We'll see you next time.